Today on Locked On Red Wings, the season kind of ends in a whimper as Detroit blows the game with 1.8 seconds left and loses it in overtime, but I don't really care.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's a host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a sports writer for C&G newspapers, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University ACHA D1 men's hockey. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Also want to thank you guys for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Detroit, Scotty, obviously loses 4-3 in overtime to the Toronto Maple Leafs in the season finale, falling just shy of 40 wins on the season. There's some elements that you're like, darn, that kind of stinks because there were certain players, which we've previously noted, chasing, I wouldn't call them milestones, but like just round numbers, I think is Ken Daniels.
Yeah.
Accolades, yeah. And they fell just short of them. Yeah, round numbers. They're chasing round numbers. Benchmarks. I like benchmarks. Yeah.
Okay, I can go a couple others, but we can go with that. Yeah.
Use that writer brain. Come on, we got this. But I mean, they're already eliminated from the playoffs. It does not really matter in the end. And like, I laughed and that, I guess, if you want to say first thought, I just laughed. I was like, of course. Like they lost the season finale.
Yeah, I was
but
dual screening that and the Tigers. They had a great game. The Tigers were, had a really, really big win over the Royals. And so I was kind of watching, obviously, split screening them, and they both ended almost at exactly the same time. And it was just the duality of man kind of right in front of you. It's like, this is a really young, exciting team that everyone's really pumped about, and the city's kind of, injecting some energy into. And then you have just the most, honestly, like I laughed as well. I chuckled with my roommate. Like that was the most on brand way they could have possibly have ended that season, this season, whatever. Like legitimately, that it was. Oh, look, everything looks really good. Just effing kidding. Like that is quite literally could not have been scripted any better. And I honestly think perfectly encapsulates this season of Red Wings hockey.
yeah, and I mean, we saw it a little bit yesterday too, right? Obviously, they were able to stave off the Devils' comeback, but at one point it was a one-goal game, and it was like, oh boy, like they kind of played with their food a little bit too much here against the Devils team playing their B team, and now they're gonna, get their second win here in the third period and push back. I mean, as if you want my actual thoughts on the game as a whole, if that even matters at this point, I mean, I guess I'll just do my job. I thought the Maple Leafs came out and were the better team in the first period. I thought that for a lot of that first period, they were kind of just circling the zone with the puck. But from after that, I kind of felt like, again, the Red Wings were beginning to push more because they had more to play for, right? Those benchmarks, as you put, they were playing for those benchmarks, which they came close to. But then in the third period, they got a little lazy, like they did against the Devils, and it came back to bite them. But if they were fighting for a playoff spot, yeah, I'd be on here throwing a fit, but they're not. So, I mean, who really cares in the end besides just like they didn't get those benchmarks.
Yeah, benchmarks isn't the right word, dude. I got to think of something better.
I like that. I like benchmark.
I don't. I think, honestly, again, like I don't want to just repeat myself that it was an on-brand collapse. I thought they were the better team. Like, I mean, you mentioned, Toronto just kind of played like keep away early, and like that's, that teams do that. That it is what it is. I'm not sure that makes them like significantly outplaying you, but the Wings didn't have the puck for a while there at the beginning of the game, so I guess that's fair. I actually thought the Wings looked like the better team in like Toronto.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, I agree. They were the better
Toronto
team.
Wasn't throwing out the A team, and they weren't going at full effort either. Like this wasn't you weren't getting Toronto trying its darndest, that's for sure. So, grain of salt, who really cares in that regard too, I guess. But I actually thought the Wings were the better team for probably two periods. And then Yeah, like the third period happened, and certainly the second half of it, the last 10 minutes of the game there, and they kind of, it's very, I don't even know if frustrating is the right word. I let the record show I'm not frustrated. Like, I really think it's
I'm not mad. Don't tell anybody that I'm mad.
Right.
Is what you just said.
I want the world to know I'm not mad. But to me, it is I guess the word is frustrating, maybe like demoralizing, whatever, that another team can kind of just like flip a switch and just be like, all right, like let's try now. And then the Wings are toast. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure, but it's also not like the Red Wings were playing their hardest either. And I do agree, like they were the better team for the bulk
Right.
majority of that
game
game.
82 of a meaningless game for both of these teams. Again, I'm not trying to say like any which way that this game has me, like emotional, but it's just one of those things where, again, kind of a fitting way to end the season. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it kind of was a microcosm, right, of everything that's gone wrong with this season that caused them to inevitably miss the playoffs. Scotty, when talking about losing that hockey game, this is a rare instance where I feel like selflessness was the reason they missed the playoffs, or not missed the playoffs, and that's not why.
I was going to say, I was like, wow, that's a take.
Yeah, reason why they lost this game, and that was because Simon Edvinsson, God love him, he was trying to do the right thing by his teammate and get Patrick Kane the puck so that he could get his 60th point on the season. I thought initially that it was for a performance bonus, but that performance bonus for 60 points only kicks in if he gets 60 points and they make the playoffs. So that was just for bragging rights, I guess. But Edvinsson, who had an opportunity to score on the empty net and put the game out of reach, turned it over on a pass attempt to Kane, and they came back down and scored with 1.8 seconds left. So that's my difference maker this hockey game. It was really hard to pick a difference maker in a game where nothing really matters and neither team really went full speed.
Yeah. It is very difficult to take anything from, really, I mean, you can go back, obviously this game, but you can go back the last, really ever since the Habs game, I think you could argue, for the Wings, but certainly since they've been mathematically eliminated, and just kind of be like, how much are we really going to take any of this with a ton of, I don't know, seriousness? Like at a point, it's just like this looked more like a preseason game than a regular season game. And so did the last two games before it.
Yes. If you want to be cheeky and you want to say a difference maker, you can shout out Justin Holl, right? At least as your number
That's
one
true.
Notable performer in this hockey game. Had 25% of his total point production on the season tonight against this former team, the team that chased him out of town for once. Yeah, I won't finish that comment. So he's finished with 8 points, had a goal and an assist against Toronto tonight. It was nice good for Justin Holl. That's all I'll say. Good for Justin Holl.
Yeah, I tweeted out, I think it might be true that,
we said that last season, though.
Scores a goal in his last Red Wings game. Yeah, but yes, I mean, fair. I think this is a little bit different, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So one goal, one shot, plus 2, 4 shots on or 1 goal, 1 assist, 4 shots, 4 blocked shots for Justin Holl to lead the team. So a legacy game for him tonight against the legacy game for him tonight.
Dude, this was prime Justin Holl tonight. Like that's what that was.
And like it's cheeky and it's in jest, but like genuinely, like, okay, good for you, Justin. Like you've had a rough season. At least you ended it on a high note with the goal and the assist. The assist on Watson's goal was hilarious. Not gonna lie.
Yes, it was.
Just kind of went off his foot. Anyway, Scotty, let's head to a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about notable performers. Probably talk about those players who didn't reach their benchmarks in segment 2, and then just wrap up with initial thoughts on the season as a whole. Stay tuned to segment 2 of Lockdown Red Wings. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, or Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already got a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easy to travel with, allowing you to take your games or your kids wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, the first and second generation of Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and the third generation of Fire TV Cube. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, notable performers in this hockey game. Who you want to lead off with?
Cat. I was really hoping to get the 40.
He had a couple opportunities to get that 40th.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, great year. Like, obviously, that difference of one goal, it does not like make or break his season. We know that he had a great year and whatnot, but I'm sure that when he goes to Hockey Reference and looks back at this season and sees a 3.9 there, he's he might itch the back of his brain a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean, he did with the 39th goal. He got a 70th point of the season, so got that benchmark, Scotty. And it's just nice. It was, if we talk about players this season that went above and beyond or exceeded our expectations, I think DeBrincat is one of them. We were hoping for a bounce back year between 30 and 35 goals. We were thinking just conservatively, like maybe the 40 goals that he scored back with the Blackhawks, maybe those were just like anomalies. But this year he bounced back with 39 goals, went above our expectations, and he was one of the few consistent upsides. In fact, actually, one of the things we talked the most about with Alex DeBrincat all last season was the inconsistency, right? He'd go on stretches where he'd score, and then he'd go like 18 games without a goal. This season, he was a consistent goal scorer throughout. I can't remember off the top of my head a drought for Alex DeBrincat that was at least notable. It may have been like 3 or 4 games, but nothing notable. He was their most consistent goal scorer all season long. He was exactly who you paid him to be. You get that next year, he's going to help you be in the fight yet again.
Yeah, I completely agree. This was a season that I think gave people a lot of confidence in him going forward, and that is something that we did not have after year one.
Yeah, and another guy who fell just short of those benchmarks too, Marco Kasper, finishes the year with 19 goals. Also had a couple opportunities for the 20th. He had a fantastic rookie season, right? From, being buried on the third and fourth line with Derek Lalonde, we saw a lot of upside with him in that time, but wasn't getting a lot of point production. McClellan comes in after a few games, looks at him, goes, I want to put you in the top 6. He starts producing. He gains his confidence and then takes over the second line center. He was one of the best rookies in the NHL from what are they using? The New Year's is what they say on the broadcast. He scored most of his points when McClellan took over, and he was the bona fide second line center that line needed. And we talked about that a couple episodes ago for Kane and DeBrincat. So Marco Kasper fell just short of 20 goals. That stinks, but gave a lot of Red Wings fans a lot of confidence in the young core of this future.
For sure. Well, and we've talked about that already all week, kind of, but seeing him be like, he had 6 shots in this game. He led the team in shots again. Like he
wanted it.
Yeah, man. Like he has just played so much more aggressive since the Wings got eliminated. And I think part of that is probably just like, sharpest pencil in a dull box, right? Like I think part of, I was trying to think, I was going to say smartest kid in a dumb class, but that seems rude. Like I don't want to call these people stupid. Like that seemed far too dramatic. so I went with a pencil analogy. Anyway, I think that it's part of that is just like everyone else, took a step back and did not care about these games very much at all. But it's just it is really nice to see that again, just his I'm trying to think of a different way to word it than just like his aggressiveness for the fifth time, but like that really is it. Him really still not letting up when the season ended, I think is cool to see at a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'd be ridiculous to say he could push 50 points next year with the Detroit Red Wings. I don't think that's insane to say whatsoever. Other guy who didn't reach his benchmark, obviously Patrick Kane. We kind of mentioned that earlier. Fell just 1 point shy of 60 points on the season. I think I'm repeating myself. I thought it was for a performance bonus because he had those performance bonuses, but 60 points was only for, he only got that $250,000 if it was 60 points and a playoff berth. So he was just doing it for the benchmark, as we keep saying. All three of those guys fell short. It's all right. It would have been nice. It would have been cool. It would have been cool getting 40 wins on the season, but none of it matters. At the end of the day, Scotty, the Red Wings still fall. 4-3 in overtime. They finished 6th in the Atlantic Division. They have 86 points on the year, 5 points out of the final playoff spot. 91 points again, 2 years in a row was the number to clinch the second wild card. So I think that's going to be, we're seeing kind of a shift in, I think a lot of that's just parity based. There's a lot of teams in this Eastern Conference that are middling to good, and a lot of them are taking points from one another, so it's bringing the threshold down. But that might be, closer to the new number. It might be 91, 92, 93 going forward. And that's 3 wins. 3 wins. 3 more wins there in the playoffs. So,
yeah,
we'll talk.
Those wins, you mix those into the big, losing skid out of 4 nations. You just find 3 of those winnable games that you weren't able to get the job done, and it's a different story.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll talk about the season in a couple minutes before we get off track and we start talking about that. Austin Watson scored as well in this hockey game. Love the dog getting another goal. Kind of a filthy backhand goal, top shelf.
Dude, yeah. Does he have silky mitts? I'm not going to lie.
I would call them unexpected mitts.
Yeah,
you don't expect that.
Sure.
It was a weird game where a lot of players you don't expect to scored goals, right?
Well, that's
obviously Justin Holl with his second
goal. The nature of a
season.
Meaningless game 82, yes.
Right. Justin Holl got his second game of the season. Austin Watson got his third goal of the season. Philip Myers got his second goal of the season. Chris Tanev got his third goal of the season.
What was
that? Was only Scott Laughton's third.
Before we hit record, that like a quarter of Justin Holl's points all came in this game.
Correct. He had 8 points on the season. He at the end of the year, 2 of them were tonight. So that's a quarter of his points in the final game.
Wild, dude. That is wild.
He's not a point-producing defenseman, so it's funny to say,
Clearly.
but right. It's just the reality of the situation. I don't really got much else to say on the game. I thought the fourth line skated hard. Top pair was pretty good again for the most part, except for Edvinsson, being selfless and basically costing you the game, but who cares? It's the final game of the year. He doesn't do that if the game matters.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. Again, it's hard to really take away too terribly much from this. I think most people are just kind of looking ahead to the offseason. Right. Much like us.
And we'll start that offseason talk on Monday. We'll actually probably talk a little bit. No, we'll be retrospective here in segment 3. So let's get to that. Talk about our initial thoughts on the season. We'll do a full episode on it, I'm sure. But it's better than talking about the game. So, segment 3 coming up. Stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here. Well, that's rude. Why did they have to throw that in my face? And if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy, and the building, it's next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets. Even more for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as the puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save as up to 60%. Here's why you're going to love Game Time. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. Their all-in pricing shows your total cost up front, no surprise fees at checkout, and the app even shows you panoramic seat views so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And with Game Time ticket coverage, you're going to know you're protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the code is LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Actually, there is one more thing that's kind of important from this game. That is that Lucas Raymond left in the second period with a shoulder injury, briefly did return, but decided it was not worth playing through. As we record these right after the game, so I'm actually trying to scroll real quick and see if anyone...
I didn't see anything.
Coach George Malik right now just said, Coach McClellan tells the media, folks on FanDuel Sports Network Detroit, that Raymond had a sore shoulder and that he doesn't believe it's long-term, but there was no reason to put him back in the game, which was the best-case scenario we were hoping for. We're getting a little bit banged up in the final game of the season. That's meaningless. There's no point in fighting through it. Just take your rest. Good. That's the best-case scenario. We're glad that happened.
There's literally no reason for him to play. For anybody on this team to play through an injury, literally none. Yeah,
he already got his 80 points. It'd been nice if he got 82 for the point per game, but it does not matter. None of it really matters. It's just fun to see. Scotty,
nothing matters, dude.
What do we got today in the stuff category? Do we got anything? I guess
Keats. I mean, we did it already, but we don't need to bring it up. I guess every time, but officially the last game of his Red Wings career. So.
Yeah, they did a lot of stuff in the pregame that was really cool for him. Constantly I loved all the flashbacks to like him through the years and dude, watching the transfer.
The Tigers montage they had of him doing Tigers games where he's like the field reporter back then, right? Instead of at the booth, he's on the field, and he's like, like they had him like robbing home runs into old Tiger Stadium and up there, and doing like catcher drills at one point, like in like khaki shorts for straight out of the 90s. Like it was really cool, man. So and I'm really glad that not for this game, obviously, because they weren't at home, but for the last game at LCA, that they had his family there and whatnot. It was very important, I think, to a lot of people to make sure that he was able to understand the magnitude of, his impact on this city's really like sports history.
25, almost 30 years, right? Just being a mainstay on everyone's television.
Absolutely.
Scotty, now that the season is over, I just want to ask, and I was asking people on social media, so I'm going to ask you here first while I pull up and see what people have said so far. Please tell me people have interacted, and I don't pull this up and there's like 0 comments. Scotty, what if you could summarize this season in one word, what would you choose? And then explain your answer.
I don't know, man. Again.
I'm torn between 2 words.
So you made the rule of 1 word. This is your arbitrary thing, and now you want to have 2 words.
I did not say I was going to say 2 words. I just said I'm torn between 2 words.
This is like when you're growing up and the kid's like, I just invented a new game. And then he just like makes up all the rules, but then he still breaks them. And it's like, all right, dude, what are you doing?
I mean, I think the one that wins out is probably a pretty expected word. It's disappointing.
For sure.
It's just, we knew going into our expectations for this team going into the offseason last year was, okay, you missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker. That broke your heart. Use this as fuel. Make the necessary changes to this roster in the offseason. make them better, make the playoffs. So that did not happen. So they fell short of our expectations. And we'll talk. Okay. Just got a pop up on my computer. That was super cool. Talking to you, and all of a sudden it opens up a new tab. Anyways, it's one of those things where like they fell short of our expectations, and it's really frustrating because this team was so close last year, and we felt like, yes, there were some pretty big holes, but they were so close to doing just enough to make it in. So, and we'll have a conversation about did they fail or meet our expectations. But then I think our expectations did shift after the offseason. When we saw the roster, we had a lot of conversations about regression might be in the cards this year, and that's what happened. So in a way, they both failed and met the expectations. It just depends what side of the offseason we were on.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's like really fair to like say that though. Like we expected regression. They didn't regress. Like we were at the Four Nations and they were in wild card 1, dude. Like that, you know what I mean? Like that's not like a consistent like, oh, like they played at this level all season. Like they were in wild card 1 2/3 of the way through the year. Like
I do think that's a little bit of recency bias, though, Scotty, because of the fact that, remember, I mean, they started off really poor. They were 8 points out of a wild card when they fired Derek Lalone and brought in Todd McClellan. They had to go on 2 unbelievable runs to get back into wild card 1.
For sure,
so,
but I also think, yes, I mean, that's obviously true. I also think that you could argue that firing Lalone sooner changes the...
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, changes the outcome of the season too. Like I don't know. We have a lot of time to break down the season and kind of gather our thoughts and articulate it well. I think ultimately I choose again because this just feels like at least the second. And if you want to be like really stingy, you could maybe argue the third year in a row that they had a chance to do something and just completely collapsed at the most inopportune time. And, yeah.
You look, too, at teams like Montreal. And I'm not going to compare the rebuilds because, I mean, it's throwing darts at a board. And the Wings youth has been great. But that's a very young team that shares a lot of similarities with the Detroit Red Wings, right? You know, a captain in Nick Suzuki who's like a 75-point player, 30-goal scorer, I think for him for the first time ever. They got some really young, exciting players like Lane Hudson and Ivan Demidov now, who's electric in his first game, Cole Caulfield. But they're not a perfect team
debut
either.
In a while for the
Ken
NHL.
Daniels on the call. Love it.
Yeah, man. Super cool.
But they're not a team without a lot of flaws, too, right? Like, they caught lightning in a bottle, and at the deadline, they looked at their GM, Kent Hughes, and said, let us bet on ourselves. The same thing Dylan Larkin did last season, and they pulled it off. They got hot, and they stayed hot. And, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. You bet on yourself. Sometimes it works out, sometimes you don't. But it does add a layer to the frustration. It's hard not to compare yourself to a team that, and I know that, yes, they made the Stanley Cup in 2021. That was the bubble year. They wouldn't have even made the playoffs, I don't think, if they had not expanded the
goalie
playoffs.
Performance, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that team, I mean, Ben Sherratt and Jeff Petrie are like two of your best defensemen on that team.
Horrible a year later when they didn't have said goaltender.
Isn't that the year when was the year they drafted Juraj? Wasn't it that year? Slavkovsky? 2022,
it was
I think
within
so.
a year.
Yeah, because 23 was Bedard.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, their rebuild's been really wonky. So, like, it's hard to compare and contrast. Besides the fact that you just like boil it down.
No,
they
but
got
I
a young core with holes, and they made it.
From a fan perspective, I understand the frustration of seeing a team bottom out after you and make it past you before you. That was worded terribly. To bottom out after you and make it back into the postseason before you. That is
right.
that is obviously frustrating, and you can't compare rebuilds. Really, they're all unique and different in their own way. But on a very like overly simplistic point of view, I do understand the frustration there.
I do think, and I can say this with confidence, for me, this is a make or break offseason for Steve Yzerman. You've done a fantastic job.
Completely agree, yeah.
He's done a fantastic job of accruing a lot of draft picks and prospects. Those prospects are all the ones that are on the team are being impactful. The ones that are in AHL look like they're going to be impactful players. We'll see ASP and MBN make their AHL debuts tonight, by the way. Reminder, against the Ice Hogs about 8:30, something like that. But like, okay, now we need a transition. Now we're not in a situation anymore where you need to acquire all these draft picks and all these players. You need to go out and acquire a guy through free agency or trade that's a supplemental, a positive asset to this core. And to an extent, he has tried, right? Like Andrew Kopp had a career year when they acquired him. JT Compher similarly. Everyone said Justin Holl was a bad acquisition when he made that signing. And so part of it's bad luck. Part of it's just bad pro scouting. It's a mix of both. But like, okay, that hasn't worked out. Now you have a lot of, I'm trying to find a word to say, just guys who aren't contributing, veterans who aren't contributing the way that there should be. And now you're looking at it, and this is a make or break offseason because now you have to get that guy to help the youth. I do think the youth is going to continue to grow and get better, but you still need more help, which is why, in my opinion, you can't sit on your hands. And I do think he made attempts at guys last offseason to bring in an impactful guy, and he whiffed. This year, I don't know if you can afford to whiff necessarily. And like, if you give,
you can't, dude. You have so much dead cap right now in terms of like production, like on the roster. No, you can't afford to swing and miss again.
Like Mitch Marner, who I know everyone's going to be wanting, but you have the cap space for. Gavrikov out in LA, fantastic top 4 defenseman that'll help fill a huge need on this team. Brock Besser. Like, you need to get an impact free agent. You need to actually swing for a home run instead of just settling for singles. No more Band-Aid players.
Yeah, and again, we have a lot of time to break that down this summer too. I think that is a shared sentiment and something I brought up. I want to say it over the Four Nations break. Maybe it was trade deadline. Conversation we had a while ago though, where I kind of said like it's really frustrating to have the mindset of avoiding and staying away from the big name, really expensive superstars and instead going for overpaying 3 guys that are middle of the lineup bets that add up to that and don't even combined don't produce the amount of points that a guy that is a top end talent would. I think that mindset is very frustrating and very honestly hypocritical.
Dude, nail on the head. You're preaching to the choir. Like, you've seen my crash out this last week over the Mitch Marner discourse. Because, like, obviously I want a 100-point player on the Detroit Red Wings, so I want Mitch Marner. Yeah. And I know it's not everyone and it's social media, but, like, people snubbing their nose at the idea of signing Mitch Marner because they'd rather get 3 or 4 more Andrew Kopps and JT Compher drives me nuts because it's like we criticize Steve Yzerman for these middle 6 lineup players that don't make the team better, and if they do, it's incremental, but then you don't want to spend $14 million on a guy who could conservatively give you 85 points, more than likely to get you 90 plus, because he costs too much, because it'll interfere with your ability to sign those middle 6 players that you've been criticizing Yzerman for doing. Makes no sense to me. That's an impact player who, I'm sorry, you drop Mitch Marner on this roster this season, this team makes the playoffs. Because you have a legitimately terrifying top 6.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyways, that's my little Marner rant. You'll get another one when we do a full episode on whether or not the Red Wings should sign Mitch Marner.
We're going to have 8 more of these for sure. So.
Anyways, Scotty, Tankathon, then we'll end it up. Then we'll wrap it up. By the way, the Red Wings cannot get the first overall pick because they finished 12th, which I don't care. They weren't going to get it anyways because the chance of getting number 1 at 11 was 3%. It says odds at number 1 at 2.5%, but if they jump, they don't actually get it. I think they can only go as high as 2. So if they land the number 1, I believe they just get 2. All right. What's the number? How many times are we doing it today?
I don't know. What's like a fun end of season number?
We could do 8 for the amount of points Justin Holl had.
Let's do 2 for the amount of points he had tonight.
All right. Sounds good. Here comes 1. Red Wings stay at 12, and here comes the official number 2. Oh, Red Wings dropped to 2.
Shout out Jay Holl, baby.
You know what? 2 is my lucky number. I wear number 2 on. I've worn it since
I'm
I think.
So sure it is, dude.
It is. I've been wearing the number 2 because Yuri Fisher wore number 2. And when I was a dumb kid, I was like, that guy's got the same last name as me. That's really cool. I'm going to wear that for the rest of my life.
Honestly,
and that's what happened.
Respect.
Even though our last names are not spelled the same. I did not care. All right. Scotty, heading off into the offseason. We'll recap the Grand Rapids Griffins hockey games on Monday, watching MBN and ASP as they finish out the season in Grand Rapids. And then we'll start offseason content intermixed with the Grand Rapids Griffins playoff run. Stay tuned for that. Oh, final thoughts.
Yeah, just like, I know we're running long here. We got to get out of here, but this is another season for us in the books. So thank you for listening, and thank you for, even amidst your frustration watching this team, still choosing. You watch the game, you're pissed, and then you choose to take in more Red Wings content, and for some reason, you choose us, and I just appreciate that like no other. So
we do definitely appreciate it. I mean, I think for a lot of people, including ourselves, it's cathartic. Losses, it's fun to come here and listen to us complain because it's a voice for the listeners. But with wins too, right? Like, then you celebrate with us. So it's a lot of fun. We're really glad to have you along for another season, and buckle in because we're still at 5
here,
days
baby.
a week.
5 a week. 5 a week. We're not going nowhere anytime soon. So
5 a week until at least the second half of July. Might be longer. I know last year we went until August.
Yeah, we'll see.
So,
we ball, baby.
We're going to be here nonetheless. Season ends, but we don't. Stay tuned for Lockdown Red Wings. We'll be back on Monday, same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.